they start referring to people that they don't believe are going to make it through the apocalypse as zombies.
Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us one more time. Hope we got a good show for us today. I know Cassie's up, and before we get going, though, Jesse's probably got a good. I don't know what to call them anymore. They're not tips or
they're
history facts.
History facts. History brand. I don't know what it's called. History Channel, History Brand, Unexplained Mysteries. So that's the new calendar that I have this year. So this week is the Alaskan Triangle. So kind of, I'm assuming what you guys think it is. It's going to be what it is. So there's a large triangle-shaped area with the corners touching Juneau, Anchorage, and a very northern city of Barrow has been the location of the disappearance of 16,000 people since the late 1980s. So 40 plus years. The area is known as the Alaskan Bermuda Triangle, as tourists and locals on land, as well as individuals flying planes, frequently go missing while traveling in and through the triangle. Even indigenous tribes of the area have observed the mysterious phenomenon and integrated stories of these disappearances into their culture. The region that the triangle sits in is known for its beautiful, rugged wilderness, and some investigators believe that this terrain has a lot to do with the frequent disappearances. However, many claim that it cannot be the cause for the thousands of people that go missing. Some bodies have been discovered, but many have not, and that leaves questions regarding their final fate in Alaska's wilderness. So it could just be the rugged Alaskan wilderness, but it also could be, the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
Alaska.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's interesting. I never heard of that in Alaska, anyhow.
Me either. That was the first time I heard about it. So
cool. Well, that's good.
So there you go. There's the history, unexplained mysteries right here.
D, your microphone is turned off.
Unmute your microphone.
Maybe that is the tunnel to the ports. There's a port in Alaska and there's a port in the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, there supposedly is a lot of up in the North Pole, like way up there. Is it Antarctica? Is that what's up there?
Antarctica's down below.
Right. Well, what's on top?
Yeah.
Not the North Pole where Santa's at, but there's supposedly, a lot of UFO sightings up there. And supposedly there's a big hole in the earth where you can get into the earth.
That is Antarctica. That's the South Pole.
Okay.
Not south. Yeah. So maybe they really are portholes to a new world.
Could be.
And what do you think about that new?
I was just going to say they just discovered the new habitable planet.
So yeah, well,
I forget what it's called, like 72B or something.
Yeah, it's got a long name.
Huh.
I don't know.
I haven't heard about that, but that's cool.
But they say it's hotter than Earth, so they don't know that there's living objects or.
Actually, you know what? I think. Hold on, let me see.
Is it like beyond all the planets that we know of?
It's probably a different solar system. It's so much distance from Earth. I mean,
yeah, it was just discovered. Like they just released it.
They just had a big article on it on the news tonight, and I kind of skipped over it. I was getting dinner, and I kept going in and out trying to get it, and I guess I missed the important parts of it.
Yeah.
I need a photogenic memory.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just I don't mean put us out of gear here, but we were talking about Lisa Marie Presley dying. You remember
Yeah.
when we were at
Oh,
the
she
Hard Rock
died?
Cafe? She died.
Just died. Yeah, she just died.
Oh
It just
no.
come over
I,
my
I
phone,
saw that she was hospitalized and
and
she
she
was
was in
showing
a
at the
coma.
Golden Globes.
Remember
Yeah.
when we were in New York and we were at the Hard Rock Cafe and she was there?
Me?
I remember being at the Hard Rock Cafe, but I don't remember being there.
No.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't there
I
because I
don't
didn't go to
remember
New York.
going to New York with you guys.
No,
it was
I
way
didn't.
before. Okay. It was me and your mother
Oh,
and Brad and
Got
Kim.
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
We were in New York and she was there, and so was Bon Jovi, the whole group.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, they were eating dinner, and then they were in a hotel.
Well, they are in the table next to us. Anyways, I'm sorry. Let's get on. Cass, you got a song for us?
I do.
It would be really cool if you did a Lisa Marie Presley song.
I didn't. I didn't. I wish. Not that I wish she died, but I wish I would have thought ahead, I guess. But it is a song that you guys know, and it's a song. I don't know if you like this song, but I know you like this band, Dad. This week's song is "Jenny Was a Friend of Mine" by The Killers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know Dad loves the studio album Hot Fuss, which is the lead. This is the lead track on the Hot Fuss album.
Yep.
And it's actually
what's the song about?
so Brandon Flowers, the lead singer of this song, actually took inspiration from the murder of Jennifer Levin by Robert Cummings, or I'm sorry, Robert Chambers, also known as the Central Park Strangler or the Preppy Killer.
I feel like I heard this before, yeah.
Yeah. It has lyrics such as, "There is no motive for this crime. Jenny was a friend of mine." And it's basically, he took inspiration from Robert Chambers' confessional tapes.
Wow. I
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I heard this before, yeah. But.
Yeah. But this, so if, I don't know if you guys know, but Jennifer was found strangled to death in Central Park on August 26, 1986. And Robert basically tried to make it seem like it was an accident, mutual sexual encounter, which then turned out to not be. He, assaulted her and left her to die.
Rough sex.
Yes, exactly. But so this song, "Jenny Was a Friend of Mine," is actually one of 3 songs that the Killers fans have basically dubbed the Murder Trilogy, with songs including "Midnight Show" and "Leave It in the Bourbon Room," which all 3 songs describe the murder of a young girl named Jenny.
Oh my God. Wow.
That's pretty creepy.
That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Well, their band name is The Killers. So
you got a point there.
But they are
right in the name.
they're not specifically a Christian band, but they all are Mormons.
Oh, I did not
Well,
know.
I feel like I've heard that before, and it's like it doesn't it can't register in my brain.
So yeah, so like it's one of those things where people like, now that they like know that they are all Mormons, they like go back and think through all the songs, and then they're like, wait a minute, is this a Christian song about Jesus? Mr. Brightside?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now you know. The Killers, a band to think about.
Wow.
Well, Fall Out Boy, I always categorize the 2 together because they came out about the same time, and I was a big fan of both. But the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, trivia here, he does the theme song for the Spidey team on Disney, or like the little cartoons that Owen watches.
There you go.
And they're called the Killer Boys?
Nope. 2 different bands.
2 different bands.
The Killers is what Cassie's talking about. I just talked about Fall Out Boy, which is a completely different band.
2 different bands.
All right. Well, good, Cass. And Jeff, both of you did good. I just wanted to remind people where to find us. The Family School of Thought at gmail.com. You can go to YouTube and find us, the Family School of Thought. We are available on, where are we all available?
Spotify, Podbean. We are on Amazon Music, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Basically, just Google the Family School of Thought, and you will find us there.
Yeah. I know you can ask, I don't even want to say her name because she's sitting there.
Yes.
And she will pull us up. Yeah.
It was on
So.
Echoes.
All right. With that being said, please, guys, push the like button and feel free to comment to us and share our site with people. We'd appreciate it. And anything we do to grow the site. With that, Cass, you're up this week.
All right. So I'm doing kind of another relevant case. This one still has yet to go to trial. It is supposed to go to trial this spring, but there's some other things going on that may delay it. So I won't spoil it too far. But this is the case of Lori Vallow and her murdered children, Tylee and JJ Vallow.
Right.
So, Lori Vallow, born Lori Cox, was the third of 4 children. She has 2 brothers and a younger sister. Her brothers are Alex and Adam, and then her sister is Summer. And she was born in 1973. And she actually grew up in an LDS Mormon family, so Latter-day Saints Mormon family. Their family was very involved in the Mormon church. And she, at 19, married her high school sweetheart in 1992, Nelson Yanes. It doesn't seem like they even lasted a year. It just says married, divorced in the same year. And then she married her second husband, a William Languani. Sorry. And they were married in 1995 to 1998. This marriage, she had her first son, who named Colby. And once they divorced, it seemed like they just went their separate ways. It doesn't seem like Colby had much to do with his father after the divorce. And then a couple of years later, in 2001, she married Joseph Ryan Jr., and this will be Tylee's father. And again, she's only married to him for a couple of years, 2001 to 2005. And during this time, she is a hairstylist in Austin, Texas, but she also is in a Miss Texas pageant. She competes in this pageant, and basically a lot of her family members said she adored the attention she got from this pageant and being on the stage. And then I'm not sure what year she went on Wheel of Fortune, but she did go on the TV show Wheel of Fortune and was a contestant on there. And she actually told family members and friends that God had told her to go on the show. And that is why she went on the show. And basically throughout her whole life, she seems very much devoted to Mormonism. She is very much involved and listens to God. It doesn't seem like this is like a rarity for her to say God told her to do something. But her third marriage ends when it is found out that her husband Joe has been abusing her son Colby for years. And he also abused her as well. And unfortunately, it seems like maybe with Colby it was a sexual abuse. And due to this, Lori's brother Alex actually finds Joe and I guess tases him. it seems really weird, but obviously, like, if your brother finds out someone's abusing you and sexually abusing your son, like, it makes sense. But it is also pretty much the first sign that something is not right with Alex, the brother. After her third marriage ends, she gets married to her most, I don't want to say well-known husband, but basically it's the one she was with the longest. And his name is Charles Vallow, and they were married in 2006. And he had sons in a previous marriage as well. So they basically became this kind of very combined family. And it seemed to be a very happy family, very loving family. But she, again, what a lot of people say is that she falls really deep into religion at this point. She claims that God has told her that their family needs to move to Hawaii. And so she does. She basically packs up her whole family and they move to Hawaii and live there for a couple of years. But while she's there, she begins to complain to a lot of her family friends about Charles and their marriage. And a lot of them say that he didn't seem to be her spiritual equal. She wanted a husband who was as devout as she was and who cared about her religion as much as she did. And so there's a lot of not strife between them, because it doesn't really seem like even Charles is aware of this at this point, but that she is questioning her marriage to Charles. And then she claims to a friend that she is now she's in constant contact and being led by the angel Moroni. And he again seems to tell her to pack up and leave, and move back to the states, not the states, obviously Hawaii is in the states, but the mainlands, I guess. She's told that they need to move to Arizona. And so as they do, I think this is in about 2017. So her and Charles have been married for 11 years. And actually, I forgot. So they're married in 2006, and then Charles's sister her grandson is born on March 25th, 2012. And his name is Joshua Jackson. And he gets taken away from his family. And so Lori and Charles decide to adopt him. And they adopt him in 2014 when he's 2 years old. And he is now known as JJ Vallow. And again, this is while they're living in Kauai, Hawaii. But in 2017, they moved to Arizona. And Colby, who is now an adult, this is her first son, gets married to his longtime girlfriend. And her name is Kelsey. And Kelsey immediately feels that Lori dislikes her, like, a lot. She's very volatile towards Kelsey. Even, like, she clearly doesn't want Colby to even be with Kelsey when they get married. Lori seems very upset by this. And it's said that after Colby and Kelsey get married, she basically starts the downfall, is what it is. And she starts not just becoming like a super religious, but she is now a doomsday prepper, basically. She believes that there's going to be a second coming of Christ, and only the the like most devout are going to survive it, basically. And she and her brother Alex start listening to podcasts that are basically all pertain to this kind of belief system, that only extremists are going to survive, basically. And while she is in the midst of this, she basically reads a book by a man named Chad Daybell. He has become well known in this kind of society groups, as he's an author of multiple self-published books, one of which is called Living on the Edge of Heaven, which he describes his 2 near-death experiences, where in the first one he claims he was, after his first near-death experience, he was given the power of prophecy. Basically, he can see into the future and see what has happened or what's going to happen. So he has become basically this guiding light in the community of what to prepare for, what to expect. And he seems to be a very big part of this community. A lot of people seem to listen to him. Now, with everything that has happened, a lot of these people who are second guessing him now, it seems like they were a part of this group to begin with. So it's like, now that everything's come forward, they're like, well, he seemed to be going a little too far, but I didn't want to say anything. You know, I didn't want to be the first one to call him out for it.
So it was a cult.
It was a cult. It's a very much a cult.
And you're at in Arizona, is this?
Well, so he's actually from Idaho. He is well known. He lived in Rexenberg, Idaho. And this is actually Rexenberg, Idaho, again, which is where he is. I think he lived in Salem, Idaho, but like Rexenberg was like his like big base. Basically, his publishing company, Spring Creek Publishing, was in Rexenberg. And coinkydink, when the second coming comes, Rexenberg is the New Jerusalem. That's what God has said, is Rexenberg, Idaho is going to be the New Jerusalem. This is where all the, I know, what are the odds? So crazy. But he's, you know, he's crazy. Like, let's just all say it like it is. And so he is this basically prophet to them. And Lori has become kind of, so she starts a podcast called Feel the Fire, I want to say. I have it written somewhere. But she starts a podcast with her friends and her brother Alex. And she's kind of become this idolized person in this group. She seems to have a lot of pull with these people. And there's actually a conference in 2018, the fall of 2018, called Preparing a People, where a lot of these groups are coming together basically to meet. Chad Daybell is going to be a speaker at this conference. And this is when Lori and Chad meet for the first time in person, I should say. I don't know if they had any kind of contact before that. I think he may have been on her podcast. But this timeline is so strange.
It's like they allow anybody in the world to just start a podcast.
I know. Like, anybody can have a podcast and talk about anything they want, and people will listen. Craziness.
Crazy.
Yeah. But so they meet in 2018 at this conference. And one of Lori's friends says that immediately when they met, Chad told Lori that they had been married in multiple of their past lives and that they were connected spiritually. Now, mind you, Chad is married to a woman named Tammy, and they've been married since 1990. It is 2018. And they're still married. They have 5 children, and he is telling this woman he just met that they have been married in multiple past lives, that they are connected spiritually. Lori is still married at this point as well. So, and this is basically the start of the downfall. Yeah, so Lori's podcast, Feel the Fire, she becomes fanatic after she meets Chad. And Chad has a ranking system of who's most likely to survive the second coming of Christ. And it's basically a ranking system of like dark to light, of course, who is basically a light being, who is godly, who is worthy, and who is not worthy, who is dark, who is against them. And they start referring to people that they don't believe are going to make it through the apocalypse as zombies. And these are the people that, in multiple cases, they say their spirit may have already died. Their body is just moving along without them, or in worst case scenario, that something else is inhabiting their body. And one of the first cases of this, of course, is Charles Vallow, Laurie's husband. And Laurie starts telling her friends that Charles is dead, and the spirit controlling his body is a demon, either named Ned or Nick. Kind of a weird name for a demon, but hey, who am I to judge? But so Charles, her husband, is dead, and his body is being inhabited by a demon. And she basically tells her family to cut him off. She says she's going to divorce him, takes the kids, moves out of the house. I think he ends up moving to Houston, and she stays in Arizona.
And
But
does he take the nephew?
No, so it's really strange. Well, so it's their adopted child. So it's their adopted child no matter what. But she takes JJ with her. So at this point, so she has 3 kids of her own. Colby, who is an adult and married, and then Tylee, who is 16, and JJ, who is 7. Or I think they may be like 15 and 6 at this point. But they are children in her care. But they stay with her in Arizona, and he goes to Houston. But he is very worried about the children. He says that she has threatened to kill him multiple times. She refers to him as Ned. She refuses to call him Charles when he's around. And he, on multiple occasions, basically begs people to get her help, begs people to believe him. But she tells basically all her family and all her friends that he's acting out because she caught him cheating, and he's basically trying to gaslight them all into taking his side. And so a lot of her family basically brushes him off. He tries to email them multiple times about her behavior, about her and Chad's very creepy relationship with each other. But everybody kind of believes what she's saying about him and kind of brushes him off, kind of calls him crazy, and leaves it at that. And then in January of 2019, Charles tries to call the police on her. He basically tries to pick up JJ, I believe, for just a random, not random, but one of his scheduled visits, and she is not there. He tells the police that she is acting very suspicious, and he is very worried about the children's health. But they basically search Laurie's house, and don't find anything. They don't find anybody there, and then they also just don't find evidence to prove his point. So unfortunately, they leave without really doing too much about that. And then I think either the next day or a couple days later after this police incident, Charles calls the police again when he tries to drop JJ off at school. And they get into kind of a scuffle or something. where he either takes her car keys or she takes his car keys. Something's going on. He calls the police basically, saying that she is erratic. He is very worried about himself as well as the children. And she's not there when the police arrive, so she is asked to come into the police station, and she willingly goes to the police station and gives a testimony, does an interview. Their daughter Tylee is there. She seems very calm. She seems very put together, mentally there, or so the police say. She basically gives them the story that she's given everybody else, that she caught Charles cheating and now he's acting out, trying to turn everyone against her. No mention of demons, no mention of Ned or Nick, no mention of zombies, apocalypse, nothing like that. Just basically says to the police, this is, Charles using a gaslighting tactic to get back at her. And the police, basically the only thing they can do because of both of these complaints is basically have Lori and Charles do psych evals, and nothing seems to come from either of these evals. A lot of Lori's family say that because she wasn't because she wasn't locked up from this psych eval, they believe that was basically the nail in the coffin, that they now trusted her more than they trusted Charles, because all this evidence he said he had, all this mental instability that he believes she has, would have been noticeable to a psych eval. So they basically cut Charles off completely. The only person who will talk to Charles is Lori's brother Adam. So she has the two brothers, like I said, Alex and Adam. Alex is the one who is doing the podcast with her. He's the one who assaulted her former husband, Joseph. And Adam seems to be the very calm, quiet one. He's the only one in Lori's entire family who will even respond to his texts or calls or emails. And the two, actually, Adam and Charles, set up a kind of a family meeting / intervention, they basically just tried to say, Lori's, this doomsday thing is really bad. We need to sit down and talk about this doomsday apocalypse thing, because she has the podcast. She can't say she doesn't feel these things, because she's on a podcast every week talking about how the second coming of Christ is, coming in the next year in 2020, that this is going to happen and half the population is going to die. So they basically say that they're going to have a family meeting about this. Lori is somehow tipped off about it. She knows Adam is coming to Arizona, and also Charles is going to be there. He's supposed to pick up JJ for a scheduled I forget what the term is called.
Visitation.
Visitation, thank you. So this is July 11th, 2019. Charles shows up to Lori's house to pick up JJ. And unfortunately, Lori's brother Alex is there. And within 20 minutes of Charles being there, Alex shoots and kills Charles in Lori's house. Now, Lori, Alex, and even Tylee claim that this was in self-defense. They claim that Charles was basically super aggravated while he was there. He was yelling at Lori, yelling at Alex, threatening everybody. Tylee claims that she was so scared she got out her baseball bat and was trying to basically fight him off.
Okay, who's Tylee again?
Tylee is the daughter, so it's Lori's daughter.
And how old is she?
She's 16 at this time.
And it's Lori's brother that tried that killed him.
Yes. So Lori's brother, Alex, shot and killed Charles in what he claims is self-defense. He claims that Lori got the children out of the house. Charles had gotten the bat from Tylee and was threatening Alex with the bat. He claims that Charles hit him in the back of the head with his bat, and he did have a laceration. He had a injury to the back of his head when police did show up. But so there's a phone, like he calls the cops, tells them he has shot Charles. He doesn't say that Charles is dead or dying. And they, they're like, okay, we'll be there as soon as possible. We need you to perform CPR to keep him breathing. And he claims that he is doing this, but forensic evidence that then shows basically he waited 43 minutes to call the cops from the time he shot Charles. And he shot Charles multiple times. The first one, he could have shot in self-defense. We don't know, but basically the others were all when Charles was on the ground. And then he did not perform CPR at all during the calls, even though he was basically like the 911 operator was giving him instructions and he was saying, yes, I'm doing this. Yep. Okay. I'm doing that. Yep. I do that. I'm doing that. None of these things could be found to be done on Charles's body. But police basically say it was self-defense and leave it at that. Alex is released from custody. And that was basically the end of that. And that was the end of Charles's story, unfortunately. Very sad. Of course, a couple days after Charles's death, Lori tries to claim his life insurance policy, which would have been $1 million. Luckily, though, Charles had taken her off the policy, and it was actually going to go to JJ, his paternal grandmother, so Charles's sister. She received the entirety of the life insurance policy. And also, Lori texted Charles's two sons, Charles's biological sons, that he had passed away, and that she was waiting for the medical examiner to give her any information about what happened. And she also told her son Colby that he had died from a heart attack. And she told JJ's school that Charles had committed suicide. So she is basically telling multiple different stories of what happened to Charles, none of which include the fact that her brother shot and killed him. Or that, so she even tells the police that she heard both gunshots and just left. She heard the gunshots, but she didn't hear them very loudly, so she didn't think anything of it, and just left with JJ and Tylee, which, as a mother, like, maybe. But there is body cam footage of once she comes back to the scene of the, like, getting questioned by police. And now, knowing everything that happens, multiple news sources basically are saying you can clearly see her smiling. Like, she never asks if Charles is okay. She never asks if he's even alive. And she seems very calm and put together. She doesn't seem upset at all that someone she was married to for, almost 10 years, or more than 10 years, is dead. 13 years is dead.
Mm.
Has no remorse, it seems, to most people. And shortly after this, so this is in July when Charles dies, she gets word from God again that she has to move. And crazy enough, he tells her to move to Idaho. Rexenberg, Idaho, to be exact. So that's what she does. She moves, she takes JJ, she takes Tylee, and she moves to Rexenberg, Idaho. And August is basically the last time JJ's grandmother has any form of real contact with him. So this is basically shortly after they leave for Idaho is the last time anyone from JJ's family has contact with him. And then basically nobody hears from either of the children after that, of their family, basically. So Colby, who is now basically on the outs with his mother because he doesn't believe, or he's very upset with how Lori handled Charles's death. Colby says that Charles was basically the only male father figure he had his entire life, and for her to lie to him about his death and then obviously be completely unremorseful of the fact that he's dead really hit him hard. So he has been basically ousted by his mother. He tries to contact both Tylee and JJ, and for a while he gets text messages and very short calls, but soon, like right around her birthday, I believe, which is September 24th, he notices that the text messages don't seem like they're Tylee. They seem very off. And he doesn't believe that it's actually Tylee texting him. He tries to talk to his mother about this multiple times, and she blows it off, says, no, it's her. She just, very upset with you. She, doesn't agree with your lifestyle, all this, blah, blah, blah. So basically everyone in Lori's family, in JJ's family, and Tylee's family loses contact with the children in around August and September. And now, going back to Chad Daybell, again, he is still married at this time, but his wife Tammy, on October 9th of 2019, gets attacked in her house by a man wearing a ski mask and what she believes to be a paint gun. But when she yells for Chad to help, he runs out and simply talks to the assailant, and then the assailant escapes. And she posts about it on Facebook, but nothing ever comes from it. No one can ever find who attacked her.
So it was Chad.
No, well, so Chad was in the house, and she called out to Chad, and he went, running, but he basically didn't do anything. He ran up to the assailant, and they, had a chat, and then the assailant took off. But this was October 9th of 2019. And then suddenly, on October 19th, 2019, just 10 days later, Tammy dies in her home of natural causes at age 49. Yeah. And yeah, so now both Charles and Tammy are deceased. Lori is now in Rexenberg, Idaho, where Chad is. And Alex, Lori's brother, I think he moves in either November or December. He also moves to Rexenberg, Idaho. And let me see, I think in September 23rd, JJ is pulled from his elementary school in Rexenberg, Idaho. She basically tells his school, Lori tells his school, that he's going to be homeschooled instead of going to school. And this is the last time JJ is physically seen. I think Tylee had been missing since early September. Nobody had seen her since early September. I don't know what happened with her schooling. I think she was telling people that she was away at school. But that's all basically the information we have about what she was saying about where Tylee was at this time. But so Tammy dies in October, and then JJ's grandmother tries to do a welfare check on JJ because she has not been in contact with him since August. And she does a welfare check on him in November, actually. So late November, November 26th, the Rexenberg Police Department is sent out to an address that JJ's grandmother actually had to find from Amazon because Lori refused to even give her the address, her new address. But she had purchased something off of Charles's Amazon and was sent to an address in Rexenberg. So that's how JJ's grandmother even got her address to give to the Rexenberg police. But they do a welfare check on November 26th, where Lori, so they get there, they get to Lori's house, which is in an apartment complex, and Alex, her brother, Alex Cox, answers her door. And right behind him is Chad Daybell. So when they get to Lori's house, the only two people in the house are Alex Cox, her brother, and Chad Daybell, whose wife had just died a month prior. So the police are like, all right, do you know where JJ's at? We're doing a welfare check on JJ. And he says, gosh, what does he say? He tells the police that so he tells the police, oh, JJ is with his grandmother in Louisiana. And they're like, that's impossible because she's the person who called. She's the person who called us here, so he's not with her grandmother. And so they're like, all right, you clearly don't know anything. They said that he was very cagey. He kept looking back to Chad anytime they asked Alex a question. And so they're like, all right, you don't really know anything. Where's Lori? We're looking for Lori and her children. And they're like, oh, Lori is down in apartment like 107, like a couple doors down with her friend and I think niece, actually. So her niece was there. Come to find out, all these people are living in this apartment complex. They have multiple houses in this apartment complex. They are full on culting it up. They are living in a commune.
Nice.
Yeah. But so police go find Lori and they're like, all right, so where's JJ? We're getting multiple things about where JJ is. Where's JJ? And she's like, oh, he's back in Arizona with one of my friends. He went to go visit my friend in Arizona. When they try to call this friend, I think her name is Melanie, she doesn't answer any of their calls. Well, come to find out, he's obviously not with Melanie in Arizona. And Melanie is very upset that Lori told the police that she had JJ. And this comes forward in the court case. She basically comes and she recorded all of her calls with Lori after this, where she's like, why would you do that? That's such a strange thing to do. Like, why would you make the police come question me about where your missing child's at? And Lori basically tells her, oh, well, I didn't want to actually have to tell them where he's at. And when Melanie says, well, where is he? Is he safe? She says, yes, of course he's safe. I just didn't want to tell them where he's at. And she goes, well, where is he at? And she doesn't want to answer. And then she finds out Chad is on the call. Chad starts talking. He's, questioning Melanie's faith. This is we're doing God's work. Why are you questioning us? And it's just very crazy. And nobody knows where JJ is at this point. Nobody knows where Tylee is really at this point, but unfortunately, most of Tylee's family is coming from Lori's side, so they trust Lori. The only reason I think any of this really happened was because of JJ's family, Charles's family. But so this was in late November. November 26, 2019 is when this welfare check happens. And then a bunch of things happen. So basically the last couple months from July until 2020, basically, it's just like 1 month after another, something happens. And with all this doomsday stuff happening, Chad and Lori, who have become basically the two leaders of this, group of people, basically tell everyone to get married to each other. Alex, Lori's brother, gets married to another person in the group named Zulema. Lori's niece, who had just divorced somebody, got married to another member, Ian. These were like within days of each other. These couples got married. And they basically, Chad and Lori told them, like, these marriages are supposed to happen. These marriages will keep you safe during the second coming. And then so much crazy stuff is happening around them. And especially with the welfare check, Chad being at the welfare check for the children, authorities start to basically question a lot of things that are happening. I think before his death, Charles had alluded to an affair between Chad and Lori, and so a lot of the cops were questioning now Tammy's death. So they actually, on December 11th of 2019, the authorities decide to investigate her death. They decide to excavate her body and basically do an autopsy on what happened to Tammy. Like, why would she die at 49? And a day later, so December 11th, they decide to exhume Tammy's body. On December 12th, Alex Cox, Lori's brother, who had told his wife multiple times that he felt like he was becoming the fall man for Chad and Lori, dies in Arizona. In Zulema's house. Again, natural causes. He apparently had blood clots in his lungs and high blood pressure, which ran in his family. His mother said it ran in their family, but it just seems very odd that the day after Tammy is exhumed, he passes away, and he had been telling his family, or his wife, that he felt like the fall man. And then everything now that's going on, we've got multiple deaths going on. We've got children missing. On December 20th of 2019, Rexenberg Police Department officially announces a missing person for Tylee and JJ. They are 16 and 7 at this point. And so the search goes on, basically, and Chad and Lori disappear. Right after the welfare check, that's like basically the last time anyone really sees either of them. I think they still do the podcast, maybe, I'm not sure, but they are not seen. The apartment that the police showed up to is empty when they go back. And they go missing all the way up until January of 2020. I think I can't remember when they find them, but local authorities in Hawaii actually find Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow in Kauai, Hawaii. And once they find them, because with the missing persons of Tylee and JJ, they say you have 5 days to produce these children to any authorities whatsoever. Like, you have to produce these children. And this is on January 25th. Lori misses this court date, does not produce JJ or Tylee, so she is arrested and actually extradited back to Idaho, where she is charged with 2 felony accounts for desertion and non-support of dependent children. She's taken to court. She's basically asked, where are your children? She refuses to answer. When Colby gets involved, her oldest son, she just says, what do you think I did? Like, of course they're safe. They're my children. Like, what would you expect from me? And never says where they are, never says what happened to them, gives no indication. She is the only one of the 2 to get arrested at this time. Chad Daybell is a free man at this point. She is in custody. And I think, I don't remember what happens, but she basically is in jail. And she remains in jail to this day. Like, she never got out after that. So police do a bunch of investigating. They find Tylee's phone and trace her records. They take Alex's phone and trace his records, trace Chad's phone, trace Lori's phone. And all these phones basically lead to Chad Daybell's home in Salem, Idaho. Alex was at the house. He was in the backyard. All these phones were pinged within like a mile of his backyard. So police decide
they were buried in his backyard.
Yeah. So police decide to search the property.
How could the battery still be alive?
What?
How could the battery still be alive, being buried?
No. These were like all like the phones weren't at the property. They found the phones in other places. So I think Tylee's phone was actually with Lori in Hawaii. And then Alex's phone they got after his death. And same with Lori and Chad's, they got them once they began investigating.
Oh.
But so police search the property of Chad Daybell where they find 2 sets of human remains.
Oh.
On June 9th. And then actually, so it's insane. I don't know why he would do this. He's crazy. But Chad Daybell is arrested that day because he is at the scene while they're searching. And then as soon as they find the human remains, he takes off in his car and basically is this huge police chase where he gets arrested at the end of it for fleeing. And he gets 2 felony counts of destruction of and concealment of evidence, basically. But so these are the charges they have. Lori has abandonment of her children. He has concealment or destruction of evidence because both human remains were found charred, and he had texted. So actually, we'll get to it. They are identified as JJ and Tylee, both sets of remains. So JJ and Tylee are now they are now confirmed to be dead. And so, like I said, the last time either of them has been seen is in September. The last picture of Tylee was taken on September 8th of 2019. And then on September 9th, so a day after the last picture of Tylee was taken, Chad Daybell texts his wife about a huge raccoon that was on their property that he shot and burned the remains of. So they believe that this was an excuse for any noise she heard while he was out on the property and the fire that was on the property. So they believe Tylee was killed and buried on September 9th of 2019. But there is, like I said, JJ was seen at school up until September 23rd, 24th. So he is believed to have been alive up until that point. And the last picture,
seen his sister get killed.
Maybe. And he was also unfortunate. He was autistic, and they believe that he may have seen something that happened to her or heard about something that happened to Tylee. And sometimes with autism, they repeat something, they can't get it out of their head. So they think that he just became a liability. He had maybe said something to somebody else or repeated something too many times. And so he was killed around September 24th or 25th. I think they said that they saw a picture of him wearing the exact clothing that his body was found in a picture that was taken on September 23rd. So that is the last time that he was spotted alive, basically. And yeah, so that unfortunately is basically what we know of this story right now. Both Chad and Lori are awaiting trial, which is supposed to be set in the fall of 2023, or I'm sorry, the spring of 2023. But unfortunately, with everything that is happening in Idaho right now with the young kids, the 4 young
College
kids
yeah.
that got murdered, I don't think it might get delayed, but I wouldn't put it past them, put it past the possibility of this trial being basically pushed back. But January 5th of 2023, so just a couple days ago, like 6 or 7 days ago now, when this airs, it'll be further back, but Lori actually submitted a alibi that stated she was not in the apartment where her children were killed on September, and that it was actually Alex's apartment where the children died. So I think they're going to basically try to pin it on Alex, which is exactly what they said. Alex said they would do. And that's, I think her lawyers actually tried to get the insanity plea, said that she wouldn't stand trial. She's not competent, but that actually got turned over. So she is going to stand trial.
She ought to. She needs to burn in hell.
Yeah. It's insane. I think the last thing, which I forgot to talk about, so her children die in September, and then they're confirmed to be dead, at least in September. And in November, just a couple, 2 months later, her and Chad Daybell are married in Hawaii. So Chad and Lori are now officially married. They got married 2 months after her children died and 1 month after his wife died.
So now they can't testify against each other.
I don't think they would have testified against each other either. I don't think the courts would even try to do that.
Well, now they legally can't.
Yeah.
So
They're just going to pin it all on Alex. And anything that goes to court, well, I'm sure he did.
I think he did do it. I think he clearly showed signs that he was willing to do whatever it took for Lori. So I wouldn't put it past him. But I do think that that's what they're going to try to do, is pin it all on Alex and say that Lori and Chad had no idea what happened.
Well, hopefully they'll get Alex's wife to vouch some of this. Or, I mean, how does anybody in that cult not know anything about this? They all lived in the same apartment. So how could they not know anything that went on?
And
everybody had to have known
well,
something.
The thing is that they did. So they did. I don't know what they're going to really do with the case of the other people who died. So with Charles, with Alex, with Lori's niece, they tried to kill her ex-husband as well. They didn't succeed. But basically, everybody who was in this cult, who was in this doomsday cult, like I said from the beginning, they called them zombies. They said that these were souls, these were bodies of people that were not the same people. They were not the same souls. So they had no qualms with killing these people. They believed that they were doing God's work when they were killing these people. So I don't really know what they're going to do with that kind of everything that's leading up to that. But yeah, I don't think any of these people who were friends with them, who followed Charles or who followed Chad or Lori, had any problems with the murders that were happening.
And if everybody would have just listened and the police would have listened to Charles, they could have stopped this a long time ago.
This played out in the media pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
But how long did she continue to do her podcast? Or is she still doing it now?
She's probably still doing it. Somebody's probably still doing it now. It doesn't say when exactly she stopped this podcast, because it wasn't specifically her podcast. It was she was a guest, not a guest. I don't know. It was a podcast for this group of people, so multiple people did episodes.
Oh, so she was kind of like a guest.
My question was, expert. She's still continuing with the same whole philosophy the whole time, or did it change any?
I don't believe it changed at all leading up to her arrest. And I don't even think so I got a lot of my information from articles, but also I watched there's a 3-part miniseries on Netflix called Sins of Our Mother that I watched, where I kind of got a lot of the information, and there's a lot of recordings of her, and it doesn't say whether it is pre or post arrest, but she doesn't seem to be remorseful at all. Colby, her son, has tried to basically talk to her multiple times about why she did this, what happened to Kaylee or Tylee and JJ, and she doesn't even really, it's not even like she is claiming that she had anything to do with their deaths. She doesn't seem remorseful, but she doesn't seem like she even thinks it has anything to do with her. Like, she keeps telling Colby, like, well, what do you think I did? Like, what do you think? Like, they're my children, they're my babies. Like, why do you think I would do something so crazy? So it's not even like she is taking any responsibility still.
So there's a good possibility, though, then if she's gotten a decent attorney, that they may try to plead insanity.
Well, they did. So that's what
okay.
yeah, they did try to plead insanity. They basically said she was not fit to stand trial. But the courts, I don't know if this was in like 22 at least. It was just recently that they said that she had to stand trial, that they believe she was competent enough to stand trial.
And she did admit this is a crazy, like, why would I do something so crazy to my kids?
No, she
like
never. She's not admitting. She's not saying what she did was crazy. She's saying, like, why would you think I would do something like that? But no, she's not even trying to, like, say it would be crazy.
She didn't really kill her kids.
We don't know.
Else do it for her.
We don't know what happened, so we don't know what exactly happened.
Why didn't they exhume Alex's body and find out that he didn't really,
so that's the thing, is that because the trial is ongoing, none of their deaths have been released to the public. The cause of death has been released to the public.
They want to keep
so we don't know how any of them died. We don't know how any of them died yet. Whether it was like poisoning or, force, anything like that. We don't know how they died. So we basically have to wait till the trial to figure out what happened and whether or not she was involved.
That's interesting. It'll be fun to, I guess fun's not the right word, but it'll be curious to find out how this kind of ends.
Well, I do think, like I said before, like, I think this one's getting kind of pushed. I think this was basically like a big news story for Idaho for this, but with the deaths of the college students, I think that's going to basically push this case to the back burner for a lot of people.
Right.
Because, like I said, I think, so January 5th, like, which was just a couple days ago, is when she turned in her alibi. And I didn't hear anything about it. I was even surprised that had happened when I was researching the story.
Well, I still am wondering, like, so now that they're in prison, are they still continuing their?
It doesn't say.
Their plea with God or whatever they're.
It doesn't say. All
I mean, are they trying to convince the other prisoners that time is at and then it's
no? There's been no stories of that. There's no cults started in the Idaho prisons yet. Yet that we know of. It could be happening. We just don't know about it.
If the end of time is coming, the prison might be a good place to be.
So they were wrong. So they were proven to be wrong because they said the end of times was going to happen. Well, actually, maybe they're not wrong because they said it was going to happen in March of 2020. So they could have actually technically been
the end of some time.
When the end of the world happened, it just didn't destroy everybody.
Happened the way we expected it to.
Right. They could have been right. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one.
What do you mean? The pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, a lot of people did die from it.
In March of 2020, they were like You see what's
I know.
happening?
Well, I don't know, maybe not March. I can't remember the exact date, but it was 2020. They said it was going to happen in 2020.
And that's
So.
what I mean. If you think about it, the pandemic, if anybody did, I would say that's a win if they predicted the world ended in March of 2020, because the world as we knew it ended. Because even now that we're kind of past the pandemic, to say the very least, the way that things work still has not gone back to what it was.
Right. And
It
a lot of
never
people
will.
did die from the pandemic, so
Right.
they were
Our
right.
world has changed. Our
the
world
way
has
that we
completely
work,
changed.
Yeah, because like even just in the work world, as a career, kind of thing, it was like, oh, you have a cold, just come to work, push through. Now it's like, oh, you got sneezes, you got allergies, stay home. We don't want
I
you here.
know. Yeah.
So things have changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Back to the cult thing. If they want to say that the world did really come to an end, that they could say that was in the psychic powers of somebody.
Yeah.
Some psychic.
Yeah, like
Well,
I said, in 2020, I bet that whole group was like, look.
Well, so
it's coming.
no,
This
they
and
really
that.
weren't. No, they really weren't, because the members that I saw in the documentary, obviously this documentary was clear that Lori and Chad were guilty, so maybe other members had different ideas, but it seemed like multiple of these members, or multiple of the people who were in that kind of community, whether or not it was in this small group or not, seemed to question Chad and Lori a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them said that they got too big for their britches. They basically thought of Chad and Lori thought of themselves as gods, which some of the people did not agree with after that. But again, this is after everything has happened. They're now coming forward and basically saying like, "Oh, that's not what I thought. I promise. I promise." Even Melanie, the person that they claim JJ was with in Arizona, she testified against Lori in court, saying that she was very upset that Lori claimed JJ was with her when he was not,
Right.
especially at this time where he is already presumed dead.
Mm-hmm.
So they all had a real reality check when things went.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a reality check of, oh, this is not where I want to be in life.
Right. Okay. Here's a thought for you guys. Do you think cults are prominent in other countries, or is this a United States problem?
No, it's prominent in a lot of other countries. Gosh, what was the one in Japan? There was one in Japan. It was called like the Death Cult or something like that, and it like they released deadly toxins onto the subway in like 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jonestown was in Africa.
Yeah, but that was an American.
It was American, but it was in a cult in Africa. The people that were in the cult were from the African community.
No, I don't think
like
so.
It was, yes.
I think it was. No,
yes,
I think it was.
Yes, it was in an African. It was in an African community. Most of the members were from that African community. Some of the members came with Jim Jones, but most of the people who died in the cult were from the African community.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were all from.
No,
Jim Jones took them all there. They created that.
He took a lot of people there, but most of the people who died there were from the African community.
I did not know that. Okay.
But yeah, this is all over the world.
Well, if you look at what cults kind of, the bottom line of a cult comes down to religion.
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody in the entire world, if
everybody has a different view
kind of
on
religion or view of religion, you're in a cult of some sense.
Right.
Yeah, the Christian
religion in itself is a cult, whether you're deep into it or not.
Right. Even if you deem yourself as an atheist, you can say that that's a cult because you have that same thought process. But yeah, it's like in the end, we're all in some type of quote unquote cult.
Because we believe what somebody else is telling us.
Right.
We all believe in that leader giving us
exactly. I mean, and like we were raised Christian, we're all Christian on this podcast, but that's something too where we believe that what the Bible says is true, but how do we know that is true? That Bible has been around for thousands of years. How
So
do
you
we
think-
know in 2023 now that what is in that Bible is what actually is the truth that was told?
So
But
you
again,
think Jesus was
Just
a
like you
cult
put
leader?
10 people and you start the story at one end of the
Yeah,
story.
right.
And then by the end of that story, you've got
Yeah,
millions
the game
of
of
different stories.
telephone.
I'm
Yeah,
sure that some of it, I'm sure that some of our Bible is the truth.
Well,
but
the thing is too,
it has been
that's a good,
handed down to.
that's a perfect analogy of the Christianity
Yeah,
and the Bible, because
100%.
it started out again. We have been whitewashed in the Christianity faith because Jesus is not a white man.
Yeah.
Like I think people need to realize that Mary was not a white woman.
Jerusalem is not America.
Right, exactly. But that's it. Like the Bible was written not in English, so
Right.
it was written in a different language, then translated again, and it was translated by multiple different people. That's why we have multiple different versions of the Bible. But also, it was translated by more liberal people or by more conservative people. So you get different. And every time you read the Bible, it's not the same as you read it the last time because you're in a different place in your life. So things have a different meaning to you. So the translation we know is a meaning that whoever translated the Bible from that other language, that's what it meant to them. That's what those
That is
translations
true.
meant to them. Because
That's
you got to
why-
think too, most languages have this, like
Different
English
meaning.
language or German, you are saying the same word, like German. The word for hate and have is the exact same word. It's just how you use it in your language.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm just thinking by Rumstrang, the song Du Hast, which I grew up always thinking, oh, it's you hate me, but the translation is you have me.
Mm-hmm.
So like I just did a deep dive on this song. So it's like, but that's what, like, I grew up thinking the song meant something completely different. And then I really did a translation on the song, and it's more about you have me, and it's more of a I love you not kind of song. But I grew up thinking it's a you hate me because like I'm worthless type of thing, So I think that's something too, is that we need to like take a step back and look at, like what we know may not be what was actually said or what
is interpreted.
right.
Well, and
or,
we
the
know for
meaning of it.
we know for a fact that it was interpreted incorrectly. We know that it was interpreted by people who wanted to change the language of what the Bible meant. We know that there was
Right.
What met
terms and
their
people.
agendas, yeah.
Right. It met their agendas. We know that pedophilia was taken out of the Bible and input with homophobia. So we know that happened. We know that we have evidence of them physically changing the text of the Bible to fit the narrative, to fit their wants and needs.
Right.
Cass,
All
where
right.
do you think your story is going to end? Do you think she'll
I hope that both Chad and Lori are convicted of this.
Yes.
But unfortunately, until we know how both Ty Lee and JJ were killed, we don't know if they had anything to do with the murder. So at most, they'll get very light sentences for the crimes of, like I said, Chad basically has destroying evidence, which I think maybe is max 25. And then Lori is just abandonment of a child, which I don't think is a very high sentence. So hopefully they get murder charges, but at worst, this could be another Casey Anthony, unfortunately.
Right.
I know, but they both were conspiracy. They knew they had the evidence. They knew they were hiding evidence.
But that's the thing, is same with Casey Anthony. Is her daughter was missing for 31 days. She knew her daughter was missing for 31 days.
And she knew where
but they
her
can't
daughter
prove
was.
that she had anything to do with the murder of her daughter.
Right.
So she is a free woman to this day.
Essentially, you can't be charged for being a shitty parent.
Yeah, you can't be charged. Well, you can, and this is what Lori's being charged with, is abandonment of child.
Yeah,
but it's not a high sentence.
Yeah.
It's not a high sentence, and that is why Casey is free, is because she did serve time for abandonment of a child, but because it was like such a long time between the
trial and
trial and that, she basically had time served, which was 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And our system needs to change. And you, as a young generation, need to change that.
Well, I think we are. I think we are trying to change that, but it is working.
You are just like these parents these kids that are killing and having that 6-year-old having the weapon, a loaded gun, taking it to the school. My goodness, it could have happened anywhere. There could have been more.
It has happened everywhere. This is,
I know,
is not.
That's the thing, too.
Those parents should be charged with murder.
Mm-hmm.
Those parents
not dead yet. She's not dead yet. So let's hope and pray that she doesn't die because she's still alive.
Yes.
But yeah, the parents
will be charged.
The parents will be charged. It's the same thing that happened with Michigan. Yeah, it's the same thing that happened in Michigan. The parents will be charged. They are in response to the child, but that's a different case altogether. That's assault of a person, where this is just child abandonment.
I know, but I mean,
and we live in a country where we consider, a woman's job to be a mother and nothing else.
Right.
And
exactly.
that doesn't help with the child abandonment issues because some people just are not meant to be parents. Some people are just not meant to have children. And we see that day in and day out, especially with these cases.
But she got into that cult.
She started the cult.
And she knew what she was doing.
But she started
she knew that her brother killed numerous people. So
her brother killed people for her. She probably told him to kill them.
Right. So
he's dead now, so he can't do anything against her.
But there are other people in that cult that knew that. So hopefully they will come forward.
We'll see. We will see. Hopefully the trial will be in the spring of 2023 this year. We're just waiting for that. We'll see.
Yeah. Yes.
But that is all we have for today's episode. That's all it is.
Well, we look forward to finding an answer to this.
We will update when we have updates available.
When we do our update show, this will definitely be one that we touch on.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anybody got anything else to contribute?
No.
All right,
I hope
guys.
they get served.
I agree.
All right.
Hope it's a good conclusion.
Yeah.
Benefits of the children. Okay, Ted, it's your turn.
Is it?
Can I come
All
up
right,
with
guys.
that?
Have a good night. Have a nice week. We'll see everybody back here this same time next week. And appreciate everybody stopping by and hit that like button. Okay? Bye, guys.
Bye.
We'll meet again next week.
Alexa played the Family School of Thought.